do anything.
We got a guest in the building too, by the way.
Who's here?
She has become one of my greatest friends in a short period of time. She is a CNN political commentator. She's a lawyer. What else? What am I missing?
I'm black.
She's black. Okay. Angela Rye is here.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, Angela
Hello.
Rye.
How are you?
This is Andrew Schulz.
Yes.
What you been doing all day, Angela?
Working. Meetings.
Angela's about to move to New York.
I don't know about that.
Good. So, Angela, I don't know if you just walked in right now or you've been here for a while. Do you know what we're talking about?
No, I walked in the tail end of Charlamagne mispronouncing Breitbart.
What is?
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't think Charlamagne's ever pronounced anything with more than one syllable right. So you should listen to him read the ingredients of the Blue Apron ad that we had. It's one of my favorite things to hear. Yeah.
Listen,
ask him to say quinoa.
Quinoa.
No, how did you say it when you just looked
What
at
did
it?
I say? Quinoa?
Did you say quinoa?
You said.
I
think you said
Quincy.
Kubo.
Quincy.
I think you just Quincy.
I
Did
said
you really
Quincy.
say? Where'd you get those letters?
It's Quinoa.
Yeah, but so where's the C?
Doesn't matter if you know how to pronounce it, if you know what it is. If you actually eat it, it's a grain.
No, but you called it Quincy.
Quincy?
Did you really say Quincy?
No,
In
I said
real life?
I said queen.
You said some shit.
Quinoa.
I said quinoa.
Yeah, that sounds
Quinoa.
a lot of
or
people.
quinoa.
I know a young lady named Quinoa.
I bet you do. Quinoa. A lot of people say quinoa. I've heard that.
This is a post
welcome,
Andrew put
Angela.
on Instagram, right?
Oh, okay.
Read the caption.
Selective outrage is interesting to me. If an athlete, politician, or businessman said, "Fucking on your bitch, she a thought." I had to read it like that because that's not how they say it. They're a misogynist. And I'm going to get in trouble because my pastor might listen to this show and I'm cussing.
Your pastor like the Migos.
No. Rapper says it, they're on Ellen. What's really the difference between Ann Coulter or... What? Do you really believe this? And Milo and our favorite gangster rappers? And you said gangster.
Oh, absolutely.
You said gangster with an ER. Besides a fair-ass beat by Mike Will made.
Fire-ass beat. Miss Campman. Now, get on me about can't
What'd I
pronounce
say?
stuff. You said fair.
Yo.
You said fair-ass beat.
Hey,
Angela.
yeah, I can't
Come
read.
on, Angela.
Fire-ass beat.
Sorry. I got stuck on getting ready to say Mike Will made it. Bill Maher is evil for putting Milo on his show. Ellen is cool for putting... So this is the classic textbook definition of false equivalency, Andrew. I don't agree with your statement.
How is that?
Because they're not. Please tell me you know the difference between hate speech and people utilizing hip hop as an art form to communicate to different communities. Like there's a completely different standard.
So what are you communicating to women when you call them bitches and thoughts?
They ain't talking to me. No, they're not talking to me. They're talking to
love
thoughts.
or what would you?
I don't
call
think that the song is a love song. It's like that's like saying that, you know, Kenny G playing a jazz song just strictly instrumental is the same thing as Bing Crosby singing a melodic romantic love song. I don't think
Kelly
it's the same
singing
thing.
I'm fucking you tonight.
Or which is different from Bump and Grind, which is different from, you know.
But words have meaning. Words have meaning, right?
But
we
please
know what the
understand-
word bitch means, and we know what the word thought means, and those aren't terms of endearment.
Andrew?
Huh?
What does thought mean?
That hoe over there.
So that means that it's not over here, which means it's not me. So I'm just confused.
I didn't ask if they were speaking to Angela Rye specifically. I said, is that offensive to women? Like, you could take the same thing with the N-word. If somebody just says the N-word, they might not be saying specifically to you, but it's still offensive to black people for saying the N-word.
Angela Rye has already made 5 Rye faces in 30 seconds. This might be a new record.
I'm just saying, if a white dude called somebody or just said the M-word, right?
Okay.
You wouldn't go, well, they weren't calling me the M-word, so it's not offensive. They're just using their music and artistic freedom to express things to different communities. Would you have the same reaction?
I appreciate that too. However, that's another false equivalency. So we're just down a rabbit hole of false equivalency.
I don't think you know what false equivalency means.
Oh, you don't?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, well,
So
you roll with
maybe
that.
we should start there. We should start at false equivalency.
It definitely is,
Define false equivalency.
but it definitely is a false equivalency because it is a difference between hate speech and record lyrics in a rap song.
Well, let's define it since Andrew doesn't think we know. So it's when you compare two things that can't be compared because they're on two different playing fields. They're completely different. It's
Why
like,
are they
here's
different?
here's a good example for you, Andrew, since you don't think
Why
I know.
don't we just talk
Wait,
about
let
this
me
example?
answer your question. It is when somebody says you're comparing apples to oranges. That is a false equivalency. An apple cannot be an orange. Even if it has
but they're both
seeds, it
fruit.
cannot be an orange. It is fruit, but I'm trying to give you something that you understand since you think I'm basic, so I'm giving you a basic definition.
I never said you're basic. I just think you're making an argument that's convenient to you, and I think that
it's
you're
not.
failing
It's
to
not a
realize
convenient argument. I
that
just
this
disagree
is
that
definitely a
Migos is the same
situation
thing as Milo. Like
where these things are
this
the same.
dude is
I didn't say
he's a
that they were the
pervert. Like this dude is a he talked
Right.
about pedophilia like this was a positive thing. That's completely different than somebody
Right.
singing about being bad and bougie. Like it's just completely different. Or
to
rapping
give you
about it.
context, Angela, I posted this before I knew about the pedophile comment that came out.
Yeah, but forget the
But
pedophile
what about all
comments.
the
Think
hate
about the
speech
things
they-
he said
yeah.
about race, the things he said
and
about homosexuals.
I would argue that calling women bitches and calling them thoughts is hateful. Now, if you don't think that that's the case, I would like you to tell me what is hateful to call a woman. If that's not hateful to call a woman a bitch or a thought, what words are hateful towards women, or are no words
I'll
hateful?
give you a really good example. Donald Trump suggesting that he, without permission, grabbed women by the pussy is pretty hateful. It's actually sexual assault. So I'm not even glorifying.
He said they let you grab them by the pussy,
Yeah,
so
well,
that's
wasn't
not
nobody
sexual
letting him
assault.
do that. There were
You're
other
contradicting
women.
yourself.
allowed.
You're contradicting yourself because you just called women a bitch like 5 minutes ago, and I told you that.
No,
you,
I called a woman who was acting like a bitch. a bitch.
you can't listen. All you're doing is moving the goalposts.
I'm not calling all women bitches. I'm
That's
calling a
the-
woman
neither
who's
is
acting
Migos.
like a bitch.
Exactly.
A bitch.
So it's hate
Migos.
speech. So by definition, what you're doing is hate speech.
Say again?
By your definition, what you're doing is hate speech.
Yes, I'm hating on that specific woman. Yes, that's
So
correct.
Andrew, let me just tell you this, just to be fair. I actually hate the B word. I really, really do. I really like that song
Why?
because I just don't like it. I think that there are other.
Why
words,
don't you like it?
Because I'm trying to answer you. I think there are other words that we can use. It just sounds harsh. I really don't like any cuss words. I'm trying to
No,
be
that is true.
deliberative.
Angela does not cuss.
Why don't you like the B word? Why don't you like the B word? Do you
So I
think
guess
maybe
you don't
because
like
it's
my
hateful
answer.
to women?
No, I don't think that it's hateful to women. I think it's just
The word bitch isn't hateful to women.
Jesus.
He's moving
That's what
the
you're
goalposts.
saying to me right now.
not
I just
gonna
want
be-
to.
So
I want,
said no
I
3
want
times.
Angela Rye to go on record saying the word bitch is not hateful to women.
I don't think it's hateful to women. I think that it is just a
Okay.
terrible word. I would call a dude a bitch. Like it's not. I don't think it's exclusive to women. I think that it's an unfortunate use a word in our vernacular, and I wish that we could bury it. Like
And
they didn't
Schultz, do
it.
you hate women?
You're calling women
No,
a
Schultz,
female dog.
Schultz, do you hate
That's
women?
what you're calling them.
Did
Schultz,
you
do
just
you
call-
hate- do
did
you
you
hate
just
women?
use it?
Do I hate women? No. Of
Okay,
course
so
I
when
don't hate women.
hold on, so when you call a woman a bitch, are you saying that because you hate her?
Yeah, I hate her specifically. Yeah, or she's acting like a bitch in the definition of a bitch in my head. Yeah, so I'm describing her. It's
So
a
when you
description.
use the word bitch towards a woman, you're saying that because you hate that particular woman.
or she's acting like a bitch, in my personal opinion. So the way I define bitch, she's fulfilling that statement. Much like if a guy is acting like a fuckboy and a girl calls that guy a fuckboy, it's because she meets the requirements of a fuckboy in her mind. Or
So
he
why
meets the
can't
requirements of a fuckboy in her
so
mind.
why can't the Migos be talking about a particular woman? Why can't they be specifically referring to a bitch or a thought? Based off the logic you just said, why can't the Migos be speaking to a specific woman? Why can't they be saying this person is a bitch, this person is a thought? Why they can't be being specific? Why are you making it a generalization?
They absolutely can. You're 100% right, and that's probably the case here. They're not speaking generically. I think every one of their songs, there's a specific woman that they're talking about. They've never used the word bitch generically towards women. I think I must have misinterpreted.
No.
You're 100% right. No, there's a first and last name for every single woman that they refer to as bitch in their music, and probably every rapper that just refers to women as bitches. When bitches and hoes, when that term is used, it's probably there's at least a good amount of women that they know their Instagram, they know their phone number. They know exactly who they are. They're not just using that as a general term. You're 100% right.
The difference between Milo and somebody like the Migos, Milo has targeted certain individuals. Like the guy went in on Leslie Jones for no damn reason. He got banned from Twitter for stalking. Who was the young lady he was? I forgot who the young lady was who he was stalking, but he got banned from Twitter for that. Like, he's targeted certain individuals. Like, he's not being general in his statements at all. But he is being general in his statements when he says things about African Americans, or he's being general in his statements when he says certain things about women. He's not being specific in those cases. So I think that's the difference between the Migos and Milo. But like I told you earlier, I don't understand why you're putting that target on your back, because you are a comedian and you are going to say something that's going to offend somebody at some point in your career, and they are going to attack you for it. And when
I do it every week.
And soon as you say, I'm just a comedian, they're going to be like, no, Andrew. You can't hide behind that.
I've never hid behind the I'm a comedian cloak. I refuse to do it because I think it's pussy.
It's not,
I'll be
though.
accountable for everything I say. That being said, I would love to have the artistic freedom of the Migos.
You do,
I would love to have the artistic freedom of Gucci Mane. I would love that. But if I post this thing on the internet yesterday, it trends. It trends if I post that.
Yeah, because it was kind of ridiculous.
I don't really know how to explain it. Yeah.
And real quick,
but time out, and the fact that you keep pinpointing rappers. Like, you act like rock stars haven't done this. You act like
dude, rock stars. I don't know if you guys.
You act like R&B singers haven't done this.
Songs. Like people give R. Kelly a lot of shit for like fucking kids or whatever like that. There's a Rolling Stones song, I'm pretty sure it's a Rolling Stones song, I'm not exactly sure, where they openly sing about fucking this girl who's 15.
Yeah.
Like, they say how old she is in the song, and they talk about how she fucked her, and people are okay with this. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, since when it was okay to fuck 15-year-olds in the 70s? That's cool. Now it's bad.
So
when you pee on them, it's bad.
So that's the problem. Being that it's been other artists, because this is just an artistic thing. This is what entertainers do. All songwriters write controversial lyrics or say things that people may not agree with. It's been going on since the beginning of time. The fact that you specifically just targeted rappers is what pissed everybody off.
No, I didn't just target. I didn't specifically just target rappers.
It's not that you targeted rappers. It's that you compared them to Milo.
Absolutely.
I compared gangster rappers, and this is the real difference. And if you look at the comments, you'll see
rap either. Like, how do you define gangster rap?
I compared gangster rappers to Milo and Coulter. The difference is we as a culture, and this is everybody, have more intellectual respect for Milo and Coulter than we do for rappers. And that was the second point I was trying to point out.
No,
I hold gangster rappers to the same level of accountability as I hold Coulter and Milo.
That's ridiculous.
But if you look on the comments, you will see people going, "Oh, they're just some kids. Oh, these kids. Oh, they don't. You can't really take them seriously. They dismiss them. These are adults.
But I guess,
we're dismissing
my
as
question
children.
for you is
that to me is soft bigotry.
Let Angela talk.
That is soft bigotry.
It's not soft bigotry. So two issues. One, how are you defining gangster rap, one, and then two, how are you deciding that these folks who have a song or maybe an album, right, is the same thing as two people who have built their careers upon bigotry, xenophobia, in at least in Ann Coulter's space, homophobic kind of talk, and I just don't understand how you're comparing. Like, they're not even comparable. So I think you got pushback because because they're black and they say bitch, they're gangster rappers?
No, they're gangster rappers because they celebrate guns, drugs, and misogyny and violence in their lyrics. That's how I would define gangster rap. And if you want to talk about what Ann Coulter has made a living doing, I don't think that she's any more culpable to make a living hating on homosexuals than someone who makes a living celebrating violence, misogyny, and drug and gun culture. I mean, are you here putting one of these things at a higher level than the others?
I think what I'm saying to you is that they're not comparable. Like I said, I don't believe that they fit the genre of gangster rappers. Like, they're not gang members. It's not gangster rap. That's a genre that is really pretty much died out. So that's why it's interesting to me. I think that it fits the narrative of black men.
So what's gangster rap for you?
What black men are, when black men are deemed inherently violent and criminal, you're feeding into that narrative. So that's probably another reason why you got pounced on. And when you're talking about Ann Coulter and Milo, given where we are right now as a country, and it's uber divisive, I would hope that you would understand why your post would be inflammatory and why people would be frustrated by it.
Yeah, it's supposed to be inflammatory because I see
congratulations,
inconsistency.
you won.
I see inconsistency in people. But my issue is this: I get upset at people. Like, I talk about a specific rap group, and I talk about even specific rappers as gangster rap, and then you conflate that with all black people.
No. I was giving you an example for why people were probably frustrated by it. They're not even in the gangster rap genre.
So, but you're still conflating gangster rappers as all black people.
No,
and you're
I'm not.
talking about
I'm trying
the
to tell
black
you
male
why.
narrative and how black men are viewed as more violent.
I'm saying you're doing that.
That's what she just said.
No, she didn't say that's what it was. She said you're feeding into that narrative.
Repeat what you just said. Repeat what you just said, and then I'll.
I don't remember. You got to run that back. I don't remember what I said, but I know
what you just said was
no.
I'm
definitely not letting you translate it for me.
You're feeding into it.
But the point is very simple. It's that when you say that this particular group fit in the gangster rapper genre, and you're telling me the reason why, I'm telling you that's still not it. It's saying because they are black men, because this is what they sound like, they are inherently violent and criminal, which makes them gangster. And I'm saying that is the problem. So people probably also jumped on you for that. It's not I don't think that black men are inherently violent and criminal. I'm saying when you do something that fits into that narrative, it's inflammatory and people get pissed off and they lash out. That's what you saw.
And she's absolutely right, because that is what people were saying to you, Andrew.
What I'm saying is I'm talking about human beings that are celebrating drugs, guns, and misogyny. I don't give a fuck what color their skin is. I'm talking about human beings that are celebrating these three things, which I would consider gangster. Okay?
But that doesn't mean it's gangster rap.
What color it is. Listen, I don't care. It doesn't matter what color.
It does, because you're taking definitions that we know to be something else and you're changing them to apply to your standard, which is why it was inflammatory.
Is that not gangster rap? Tell me. What is gangster rap to you? Because now a bitch isn't offensive to women, and gangster rap isn't about guns, drugs, and misogyny.
In fact, Andrew, I told you that I didn't like the word bitch.
We're changing a lot of definitions.
Okay, well.
Well, you tell me what gangster rap is to you.
Do you ever get tired of arguing with white men all day?
Why do I have to be a white guy?
Because
you are. Have to be fucking race-based.
Because you are white.
God, stop blinding yourselves for 1 second. Stop playing the identity politics for 1 second.
So, Andrew, you're not white?
Of course I'm white. It has nothing to do with this conversation. My whiteness doesn't make gangster rap change its definition. My whiteness doesn't make the word bitch change its definition. Listen, but you're not willing to take an L.
This is the facts of the matter. I said to Angela, do you get tired?
Alternative facts.
I said to Angela, do you get tired of arguing with white people all day? Listen. I said to Angela, do you get tired of arguing with white men all day? If you watch her on CNN, if you listen to her right now on this podcast, it looks like she argues with white men all day long.
I argued with
What was the argument you got into last night?
So that was it was in the daytime, but it was about whether or not Obama was more anti-Semitic than Trump.
Yes.
And I don't even know how we got onto that, because the conversation was about what he was doing at the
African American Museum. That lost me too.
Yeah, but it's the red herring thing. So it's not being able to defend your points with just, here's what happened, here's how I perceive it. It's like, here's what happened, but he did it way worse.
Yes.
So that may not be a false equivalency, but that is an argument technique called a red herring, right? It's like, this wasn't the point, but I'm going to spin us over down this rabbit hole because this is more useful, and I can piss off my base talking about Obama more than I can get engaged talking about Trump and defending his record. I can. It's indefensible.
Yeah, he had no defense against what Trump had done, so he started talking about Hillary and Barack Obama, and I'm like, what does that have to do with Trump? And that's what you and I forgot who the host was.
It was Brianna.
She kept saying, but Donald Trump is the president. We're talking about Trump.
Right.
Because he had no argument about anything else.
No, he did have arguments about other things, but they weren't the topics at hand. And I think that's the challenge. It becomes very difficult when we put ourselves in these situations often where it has to be black or white.
Mm-hmm.
No pun intended. Okay.
I agree.
Okay.
Now, are
okay,
we
hold
doing
on,
the same-
Finish her
Andrew.
point. Let her finish
I
her
was at the
point.
comma. I was just at the comma. But
Okay.
most people in this country, and I would argue globally, live their lives in the gray. We're not very clearly black or white on any one thing, and things most often become more gray to us, varying shades of gray, because we get greater understanding. And it doesn't mean that we ever rest in, either the black or the white. It just means here are my thought processes on these various and sundry issues. And I don't know where I sit or what I've concluded, but this is my current process. This is my current thought evolution.
And nobody ever talks about nuance. Like we say on the show all the time,
Yeah.
like it's not enough nuance. Like even with the situation we're talking about right now, it's not just Milo says hateful things, Migos say hateful things. No, it's a lot of nuance and a lot of gray that goes into both those situations. The fact that Migos are entertainers, the fact that they are rappers, the fact that, people don't take rappers as serious as they would have Ann Coulter.
Yeah.
And why should you?
Yeah. And Andrew, to
Because
your
they're
point,
both human beings.
But that's
They're
not
both human beings. They're both American citizens, and they should be held accountable for what they say. And I care
Schulz?
to do that with somebody. I think if you're an adult, you're over 18 years old, that your language means something, and that you should be held accountable for it. And I'm not going to just chalk this shit up as, oh, he's a comedian, he could get away with it, or oh, he's a gangster rapper, he could get away with it. It's like words mean things.
You're right.
Words
and
have power.
You're right.
Words
I
have
hope you stop
influence.
saying gangster
So
rap by the time this is over.
No, he's not. But
what do
listen,
you want to say?
listen,
Just
Well,
rap.
I want to. I mean,
rap.
because there's many different types of rap. I'm not going to put.
agree, and
I'm
this
not going to
isn't
put
gangster
gangster
rap.
rap in the same category as what J. Cole does. I'm not
Nobody
going to put the
is
same
going
category
to
as what
agree
Chance
with you
does.
that Bad and Bougie is a gangster rap.
Bad and
record.
Bougie is not a gangster
Nobody
rapper.
is going to agree with you on that.
It's not even
That Bad and
close.
Bougie is a gangster rap
It's
song.
not a gangster
It's
rapper.
not.
All right, fair. Now, what makes something gangster rap? What
I would argue that it was a decade plus ago, right? Like I think that there were certain 90s, late 80s songs that were gangster rap. You're literally talking about in some songs gang violence. NWA was deemed gangster rap. Ice Cube initially was deemed gangster rap. Eazy-E
What about
was-
YG?
What?
YG has certain records, but then YG also has a lot of socially conscious stuff too. But YG does have certain records. But one thing about YG's
Of course,
not.
there's gangsters, right? What about Gucci? Like, there's gangster rappers out still.
Yeah, Gucci definitely has killed a few people in his records.
But that, yeah.
That is a fact.
So Angela,
He said killed with the T.
Angela, what you're doing right now is you're doing the same thing that you accuse. You're doing the same thing you accuse those people on CNN or whatever show you were doing, right? Is instead of engaging in the discussion, you're eliminating the topic from discussion.
No, that's what you're
What
doing.
is
No,
gangsta-
show. That's
I'm
what
like,
you're
what is
doing.
gangster rap?
No,
I'm like, well, let me finish my point. That was the comma. Let me finish my point. So when I say what is gangster rap, you say there is no more gangster rap. That was 10 years ago. So now gangster rap
but I
is
gave
off the
you
table. Now we
examples.
can't even discuss it.
No, you
but
can discuss
your
it.
example was 10 years ago. So I want to know your definition of
like
gangster
20.
rap. What makes something gangster?
Yeah,
Let's
I
say
think
what-
I just
what makes something gangster?
described that. I think I just described that. And the point that I was raising isn't to say, oh, you can't use the term anymore. I'm just telling you that genre existed then, and I don't think it does now. Like I remember when they had the Bloods and the Crips come out with like a Unity album, and that was gangster rap, but it was still a Unity album. In the early 90s. And so I wasn't telling you that we can't talk about it. I'm just saying I cannot think of a frame where that fits anymore. I can't think of a
So
mold that
YG isn't gangster rap to you, or Gucci ain't gangster rap.
I don't
Like, if
think
you
that
talk about
Gucci Man. I don't
killing
know. I don't
people
know
in your-
Gucci
in your
Man. I don't
records,
think
that's
that
not gangster.
I don't know YG well enough, but I don't think that Gucci Man is gangster rap. No.
Gucci's definitely gangster
Talking,
rap.
I don't
talking
agree
about
with that.
killing people.
Yeah,
See,
Gucci-
so here's,
Gucci has
so
actually
here's what
killed
we're
somebody.
doing.
I'm not
So
saying
here's
he
what we're
ain't a
doing
killer.
right now.
Don't push him.
But no. But Angela, this is what I'm talking about right now. So now your opinion on what makes something gangster or what doesn't is
Can
skewed
we-
because you don't know what gangster is.
Oh,
So-
I'm
so
sorry.
now-
I disagree
no,
with that.
let's
But
be-
you don't think that there are some records, whether they're rap or heavy metal or whatever, where they talk about violence and it still doesn't make it gangsta rap, like or gangsta heavy metal or gangsta jazz, like.
well, it's called death metal. There's a term for it.
I see
Okay,
what- I
thank
see
you,
what you're
Andrew. I
saying.
don't listen to that, but I appreciate.
Well, you don't have to listen to it to know
No,
what
but
it
I
is. I don't
appreciate.
listen to it either.
I'm being snarky. I'm saying I appreciate that. I had never heard of that.
But no, let's
Literally makes my head hurt.
We can be specific in this situation though, because you gave a specific example. The example you gave was
I just want to know
Migos.
what is gangster to her. You have to be in the Bloods or Crips 10 years ago to be gangster. That's like
I
a really
talked about
specific
20 years
thing.
too, and I gave you several examples beyond the Bloods and Crips, but that's probably only all that you heard.
Yeah, I mean you've had
Well,
plenty
no,
of
all I heard is
you've
you
had
say it
plenty of
doesn't exist
music
anymore.
recently that has celebrated the gang culture, that celebrates the drug culture, which celebrates violence. But in this specific situation, you specifically used Migos, Bad and Bougie, and compared it to Milo and Coulter. Like you used specifics. Like you didn't just say gangster rap. You used specifics. You just the moral to the story is, what you was trying to say could have made some sense, but I don't think that you thought it through because number one, you didn't know Milo was going to come out as a pedophile that day. But you should have never been using Milo as an example, period, based off all the things that he said prior to that. And you were specific by using that one line, the fucking on your bitch, she's a thought, compared to all the things Ann Coulter and Milo have said. Nah, Schulz.
No, what I use is that specific line. If it could be said by an athlete. If LeBron James was just saying in a random press conference, they're like, hey, what are you going to do this weekend? Well, I'm going to fuck on your bitch because she's a ... That would go up in flames.
No, it wouldn't.
If there was if Bad and Bougie never came out, if Bad and Bougie never came out at all, if that was never a song and randomly out of nowhere, LeBron just took that line.
So you just want it out of context.
Because LeBron's married with kids and a role model. But if
Even if it was single.
If DeMarcus Cousins was to say it, they'd be like, oh.
No,
okay.
They'd be like, this dude is a misogynist. We got to stop it. Just like they treated George Lopez when he called that girl a bitch in the audience. Oh, he's a misogynist. By the way, sexist.
By the way, we never talked about that. George Lopez was just emotional that day because the girl said she was a fan of George, and she said she wasn't.
She sat front row.
She said she wasn't even heckling him. She said she was like standing up to be like, "Yeah, I'm Mexican and black." Like she was like agreeing with his joke. Like he flipped out for no reason. You didn't see her.
He could have definitely been emotional. And I heard about that.
Yeah, she said she stood up like she stood up like, "Yeah, I'm Mexican and black, motherfucker," and he was like, "Oh, you don't like my shit? You offended? Get the fuck out!" Like he was just emotional for no reason. He was on edge. For no reason. She was like, I'm a fan. I'm still a fan of him. And she came to his defense and said everybody needs to leave him the fuck alone. She came to his defense.
Good. I think that's awesome of her. I think that's awesome.
But George hasn't issued an apology.
I mean, why should he? He doesn't have to.
He jumped out the window.
She interrupted the show. She stood up. Sit down.
Listen, sensitive ass comedian, man. I think sensitive ass fans. Nobody needs to be that sensitive at a comedy show.
Dude, nobody's more sensitive than comedians. Trust me. I talk to them all the time. Nobody is more, and you know this, Charlamagne. You know comedians. You know how fucking sensitive they are.
Tears of a
They're
clown.
The most sensitive place. Tears of a fucking clown. Dead serious. Nobody's more sensitive to them in the entire world.
But this is why I said, being that you are a comedian and you know that people are so sensitive, why would you put a target on your back to where the next time you say something that's remotely offensive, they're going to jump on you?
Because I care about what I do, man. I put work into this shit. I don't just go out there and say some stupid ass fucking joke that doesn't make sense or is a complete logical fallacy. I go out there and I try to make justifications for the shit that I fucking do. Everything that I do, I want to be able to back up 100%. And I make sure that shit is still fucked up and offensive, and I'll be able to back it up.
But guess what? Guess what, Schulz? You can be able to back it up. It can be the most well thought out joke ever. It can have the most logic behind it. But if they want to say that it offended them and they want to get you out the paint, they're gonna do it anyway, dog. They're gonna do it, but you'll never see me defending pedophilia like fucking what's his face did, because that's not a joke. That's just straight defending pedophilia. It's fucking disgusting. It's a joke to Louis C.K.
No, it wasn't. Louis C.K.'s joke was different.
But guess what? Some people will say this. You shouldn't even try to make a joke about it. Even if, like I just said, even if it makes sense, if it start out like Louis C.K.'s was, if he even had a point, even if he was comparing it to something, some people will say you shouldn't even be remotely joking about that.
No. See, that I disagree with, because that they're allowed to have their opinion, but now we're getting into freedom of speech territory, and you need freedom of speech, and that freedom of speech exists on both sides.
But you also have limitations on free speech. There's limitations. If it incites violence, then that is hate speech, and that is different. There's an exception to free speech.
That is true.
Right, but
that's what Milo does.
Here's the thing about free speech, and it's something I've been thinking about a lot. Free speech is the only weapon we have against bad ideas. Sam Harris was talking about this. And the problem is sometimes the people in power believe in the bad ideas. For example, slavery. They believed in that bad idea. The reason you need to protect freedom of speech, and that's both ways, is because that's the only way we can criticize bad ideas. When we start limiting free speech in any way at all, When we start clipping away the things that you can or can't say, we take away our most powerful weapon for change.
I
You
disagree
need
with
free
that.
Yeah, you
speech.
gotta have
You
rules.
have
though.
to have. You cannot have speech that incites violence, and that is what you've seen. That is why you've seen a rise in hate incidents since Donald Trump was elected president. That is the problem. The reason why Berkeley students were protesting Milo's appearance on campus is because his speech incites violence. That's completely different. There are limitations to free speech. The Supreme Court has spoken out on this for centuries, for decades.
You can't walk into an airport and say, "God damn, all these Muslims got bombs." Just because you can.
I mean, I agree with you.
You might cause a freaking stampede. People trying to run.
I agree with you. I agree with you in that regard, but I don't agree with you in terms of stopping Milo from speaking, and I don't agree with you in terms of because once we stop people from speaking, I disagree with so much of what that guy says. But once we stop people from speaking in any way, we literally clip our wings in our ability to make change.
I think the problem is it's not.
You need to perfect free speech is what this entire shit is built on, and we take it for granted. It's what this entire Western culture is built on, and it is the only tool that we have for change. And when we take away someone's ability to say wild shit on the right, we also take away their ability to say wild shit on the left.
No, but what are the limitations
wild
on
shit.
that, though? Like, I guess my question is, if you're saying, that these certain people don't belong here, there's American exceptionalism, but the browner America gets, the less exceptional it is. When you say those things, you are planting seeds in people's minds that say, I need to do something about it then. I need to make America white again. I need to, you know what I mean? And that is the challenge. So you're right. We do need to protect free speech, but there is a balance. And what does that balance look like?
I think personally you should be allowed to I know this sounds fucked up, but hate speech, you should be allowed to, have opinions that might seem hateful, just as you should be allowed to have opinions that aren't hateful at all. And those opinions should combat them. For every stupid, asinine, racist thing that Milo says, we should have 10,000 more people saying the exact opposite and why he's an idiot for saying it and using our free speech to combat that. Regardless of if I agree or disagree with your opinion, you should be allowed to express it. You need to express it. And the second we take away Milo's ability to express his opinion, we take away our own. So in this weird, fucked up way, I have to protect his ability to speak so I can protect yours, Angela, Charlamagne's, and mine. Because the second we take away a little, it takes away a little from everybody else.
We didn't have this exception, so I think we've been just fine. And to your point, like if he's not, I think that now he's branded himself in a way, whether it's the Leslie Jones incident or whatever, he is a self-proclaimed troll.
Yep.
He's someone who has engaged in hate speech and knows that the things that he said has resulted in harm to people. And that is a speech that I don't want protected. I'm not saying that you can't have dissenting views or that I never want to hear what a KKK member really thinks or where they got their ideals from. I think that the challenge is giving that a platform. So I understand the purpose of the protest at Berkeley, and I think that just like he had a right to maybe go, they had a right to protest, and that's the reason why his speech was canceled.
I don't have no problem with free speech. I don't like cheap speech. I don't like speech that doesn't bring any value to the conversation whatsoever.
Yeah, I agree with you completely, but to Angela's point, and this is what people are missing, the people in Berkeley, those who didn't do anything violent, which I'm sure like the majority of them, the vast majority of them, were exercising their free speech.
Right, to protest.
That's beautiful. Protest is part of it.
Speech. Yeah.
It's constitutionally protected free speech. And when we just look at that protest as the like vast minority, when we look at it just for the violence and we don't look at all those other people out there going, you know what, this guy's got his ability to speak, but guess what? We're here too, motherfucker. And we're going to say that what you're saying is stupid. And we're going to let every person that comes out of your show or whatever you even call it, we're going to let them know that we think it's stupid too. And we're not about that. That's beautiful to me. That's America.
Yeah, but you know what I don't like? I don't like when somebody says that they're a troll and then the next things that come out of their mouth are rhetoric that potentially could be dangerous to individuals or groups. Because therefore you're not even taking your speech serious enough. But the things that are coming out of your mouth could influence motherfuckers to attack a Leslie Jones in the street.
Yeah.
Or attack a gay man in the street. So that's why people like Milo need to be silenced.
Well, dude, no, that's why, like I've said this entire podcast, we need to be accountable for what we say. That's why I don't want that comedian cloak. I don't want that performer cloak, that protectionist nonsense where I can say something and people dismiss it because of my profession.
You leaving
I
your
want
vest
to
at home
own
when
what
you
I
don't need
say.
to. You leaving
I want to own what I say, bro.
Listen, you leaving your vest at home when you don't need to. You should be happy that you have that
That's
license,
pussy, bro. That's pussy.
It's not though.
It's pussy, bro.
It's
that's pussy ass shit. Own what you say. Be a fucking man about it. Own what you say. And if you're not willing to own what you say, then shut the fuck up.
But you're not a troll,
people
though.
out there protesting.
But you're not a troll.
That's what I'm saying. I think, in my personal opinion, I think trolls take advantage of free speech. They abuse free speech. We've got this amazing thing called free speech where you actually get to say what the fuck you
acknowledge the abuses are what are the things that are not protected. You just put yourself right back where we started, which is there are some elements of speech that should not be protected. They are what you just said. They're not protected forms of speech. So you opening your mouth in and of itself is not free speech. There are certain forms that are exempt from those protections because either they're so hateful or they incite violence or whatever. There are different forms of speech, and all of them should not be protected.
Right. I agree. If there are certain situations where absolutely, like you said, yelling fire in a crowded theater and, bomb at the airport, these types of things where people's lives are immediately at danger, we can't do. Absolutely. But what I'm saying is when we have this thing called freedom of speech, which you and I can exercise, right? This really potent weapon. And then you just take advantage of it to test it and you don't even feel what you say. Like, you got people who are willing to die for it. Like, Martin Luther King died because of the shit he was saying. You know what I'm saying? Like, Abraham Lincoln died because of the shit that they were saying. They died because of free speech. And you're out here just provoking motherfuckers?
And by the way,
you.
yeah, and all
Fuck
of those,
you, yo.
And we can't compare none of those people to the Migos either. I just want to put that out there that you can't compare none of these people that you're talking about to the Migos.
But part of it is it's also an interesting argument because Dr. King didn't die because of free speech. He died because there was rhetoric out there that was very much in conflict with what he was touting as an America that was far more inclusive, and the rhetoric that was out there that flew in the face of that scared vulnerable white people from advancing or from making America more equal killed him. Mm-hmm. So that brings us back right to that point, which is, at what point is someone like a Milo accountable for stirring up controversy and stirring up violence, the same type of violence that took the life of Dr. King or Emmett Till or Medgar Evers or whomever else? Mm-hmm. That that is the real issue. So every speech should not be protected speech. Every form of speech should not be protected.
I guess my thing with Martin Luther King is, I think that maybe we can agree that he was killed so that he would stop inspiring so many people.
Oh yeah, he definitely was spewing some rhetoric that upset certain people. Like, absolutely, especially when he started getting on the economic empowerment thing, and he was going to do the poor people march. When he started messing with the money, they was like, "Oh yeah, we got to get him up out of here."
Think about so that's what happened with Colin Kaepernick. The fact that he kneeled, which is another form of protected speech. He kneeled in protest. Yep. That was more outrageous to people than Milo before the pedophilia comments.
That's true.
That's crazy to me.
That's true.
It's crazy.
I mean, I don't know if it was more outrageous. I think that Colin is just on a way bigger stage and a way more known figure. Milo was somebody who was known in YouTube and Twitter.
Yeah, but Milo got a $250,000 book deal from Schulz and Schuster.
What? Colin Kaepernick had got a $20 million, $40 million contract. You can't compare the fame.
I bet you he won't get one now. He got that before he was kneeling. I bet you.
But he also got that before he was playing like shit. Right?
That's true too.
He's just not a good football player. But that has nothing to do with his political opinions. Regardless if you disagree or agree with what he's kneeling, you have to protect the right to do it. That is his American
that is a protective. That was
right.
my whole point. He was engaged in a protective form of freedom, an act that's a protective form of free speech, and it was outrageous to people. This other guy is engaging in speech that should not be protected as free because it incites violence, and there's documented evidence of that again. But people were more upset about the protected protest than the outrageous inciting violence comments from Milo. That was my whole point.
You know the thing about Milo too.
Real quick.
You know the thing about Milo was never attached to anything that they could remove him from. He was just a guy on the internet. So being that he's on the internet, there's nothing there to protect him. He couldn't talk that way working for an actual company.
Well, he does though, Breitbart, and they just got ready to get rid of him. Yeah, just for the pedophilia, but not for the other pieces. I'm just like, I'm glad that there's some strand of human decency that still connects us all. At least it's protect the kids. Protect the kids. At least that works.
Real quick, just on the inciting violence thing, you could make the argument that the protesters that were protesting against Milo incited more violence than Milo, right? People were hurt. There were Milo supporters that were beat up. There were violence on their part. Does that mean that they shouldn't be able to protest?
That's kind of like the chicken and the egg thing, though, because you can say, for all intents and purposes, you can say Milo started all of that. Just the presence of Milo, the rhetoric Milo has put out.
I don't agree
You're
with
accountable
violent
for your views
under any circumstances. But so I don't think that anyone should get beat up because of their leanings. But if you're inciting violence, I don't know what you expect to come out of that.
But my point is, those protests against Milo incited violence, right? But I don't want to.
Milo's words incited violence. They were
no.
No, you're talking about actual acts of violence. So that's not inciting violence. That's you're talking about the actual acts of violence, right?
Okay, so those protesters that were at the Milo thing, a couple of them, a handful of them were violent, right? Now, I don't want to take away all those other protesters' right of freedom of speech to protest just because a few were violent.
Right.
In the same exact way, I don't want to take away Milo's rights for free speech just because a couple people that might listen to him are violent. You see, we have to be consistent. Both have to work the same way. Even though I agree with the protesters in Berkeley. Say again?
That's just not the standard, though. The standard is you cannot incite violence with your speech. And if you do, that is no longer free speech. You're no longer...
But Berkeley did it.
Go to jail
the protesters in Berkeley did it. They were violent because
and again,
of the
I
protests.
said I don't support or condone any act of violence, but I guess what I'm saying to you is the expected outcome of speech that is inciting violence is violence. So whether it's on his side, it's on another side, if the response is violence, that is the challenge.
Got you. Okay. And then the other thing that's really interesting, I want to say, where you were talking about there's like a shred of human decency in Breitbart and a shred of
I didn't say that. Wait, Andrew, you said
no.
I said there's a shred of human decency left in connecting us in protecting the kids. At least there's human decency, a thread of human decency that connects us in protecting the kids. I do not believe that there's any type of decency at Breitbart.
My bad. I didn't mean to say that you were defending Breitbart. I'm not defending them. We're on the same page. But my thing with Simon and Schuster and Breitbart, to be honest, but I think both of them, Simon Schuster specifically, but also Breitbart, they outed themselves as complete douchebags, because before Milo said the pedophilia shit, he'd said tons of horrible shit about women.
Absolutely.
Lesbians, gays, tons of different people, right? In America.
Yeah, that was our point Muslims, to you earlier.
Muslims. No, totally. But check it out. And Simon and Schuster agreed to publish the book based on free speech. They're like, oh, he's entitled to free speech, right? Yeah. He's allowed to do it. We have to support free speech. Then he says the pedophilia thing, and then they drop him. So Simon and Schuster basically just said, hey, you can make fun of Muslims. Yep. You can criticize women. Yep. You can criticize lesbians. We're totally okay with that. Just don't talk about fucking kids. So in my personal opinion, it's like, fuck Simon and Schuster. Fuck you for drawing a line in the sand on what you're okay
hold on.
with.
Let me play white devil's advocate here. You did the same exact thing because you was okay using Milo as an example until you found out that he was trying to normalize pedophilia. That's when you drew the line.
What do you mean?
What do you mean? That was your whole point this whole podcast. You said that you put that post up before you realized Milo was normalizing pedophilia. So prior to that, you was trying to normalize his speech.
Sure.
You was normalizing his speech before the pedophilia, so you did the same exact thing.
Well, no, because I don't think that the Migos have said anything about fucking underage kids. Now, what I could have related Milo to even after that would be to the Rolling Stones. Like, that would have been a fine equivalence, right? But I don't think the Migos had said anything in terms of pedophilia. I was just trying to talk about the way that they spoke to, mostly about women.
Well, I'm tired of talking about
But I hear what you're saying. And you actually make a good point where, yeah, maybe given the context, I could seem like a hypocrite. I think maybe we all agree that the worst thing in the world is pedophilia. It sucks to put levels.
Yeah, I don't think it's the. I don't know if it's
in the church they say sin is sin.
Yeah, sin is sin. It's pretty bad.
Shit. I'd rather you fuck my wife than my kid.
Who's your kid though?
Wait.
You ain't shit.
Charlamagne, oh my God.